You lie in the quiet of your room, unaware that far beyond the calm, you're breathing in something cold and ancient has just slipped into the sun's reach. Its path doesn't curve the way comets do. It doesn't warm the way dust does. It carries a silence so deliberate it feels almost aware of your presence. Before we follow its glow any deeper, if you find comfort in journeys like this, stories that let you drift while still learning something true, you may keep this place close by liking or subscribing whenever it feels right for you. It helps me bring you more nights like this. Now just let your breath settle and let the story open itself to you. You stay in the stillness left behind by the intro, letting your breath fall into its natural rhythm. The room around you fades into something soft, like the quiet space inside a seashell. Somewhere above that, calm the sky carries a secret that no one feels at first. Not the hum of airplanes, not the slow crawl of satellites, not even the steady pulse of the sun seems to hint at it. Yet a faint signature has already slipped into the solar system, brushing past the outer dust, as if it knows exactly where it is going. You don't see it, of course. No one does. Even NASA's deep space monitors catch only a whisper of motion, so light it nearly dissolves into background noise. But the moment holds its breath, waiting for you to notice how strange the cosmos can be when something new enters it. A single line of data appears on a monitor in an observatory in New Mexico. The signal is small, almost forgettable, a blur, a smudge, a point of light that refuses to behave like anything cataloged before. The astronomer on duty adjusts the exposure time, expecting the blur to sharpen the way comets usually do. Instead, the object becomes cleaner, smoother, too smooth for ice or rock. Comets carry tails shedding dust and vapor as sunlight warms their frozen surfaces. This one remains bare, immaculate, untouched by heat, almost polished. The discovery passes quietly from one team to another, each expecting the next group to dismiss it as an artifact. Yet every recalculation repeats the same improbable truth. Its speed is higher than gravitational capture would allow. Its line of travel points back to no star we know. Even the small shifts caused by solar pressure fail to push it off course. It feels deliberate, though no one dares use that word out loud. You imagine standing under the wide American desert sky, while telescopes far above you glide through their nightly patterns. Their sensors hum, collecting photons older than nations, older than the languages used to interpret them. Somewhere among those specks of light lies the newcomer, 3IATLAS, slipping past the orbit of Neptune with no halo, no debris, no familiar signature of a wandering fragment. The silence around it feels almost sculpted. As your awareness settles into the story, a small wonder rises how many things have traveled through this solar system without ever being noticed. How many visitors have arrived without ceremony, leaving only faint disturbances in dust clouds and magnetic fields. Your breath deepens. Without realizing it, you're tracing the shape of the object in your mind. You picture a body no larger than a hillside, wrapped in a darkness that absorbs much of the sun's reflection. NASA sometimes describes such surfaces as low albedo layers, materials so unreflective that even powerful telescopes must fight to measure them. Yet something about this one feels unusual. Most low albedo asteroids scatter at least a little stray light. This one swallows it as if light prefers to disappear upon touching it. The first meaningful clue arrives through spectroscopy, a technique that splits incoming light into its component wavelengths to reveal the chemistry of distant objects. Scientists expect to find carbon compounds, metal traces may be frozen volatiles. Those patterns rarely change. But 3IATLAS refuses to offer a clear reading. Its spectrum shows dips where none should be, absences instead of presences, silences where matter should speak. You feel a small ripple of curiosity move through you. It's gentle, not alarming, the kind of curiosity that makes Americans who love science sit closer to their screens at night, wondering what else the universe has kept from us. There's a comfort in that curiosity, an invitation almost. The data continues to flow. As the object passes the orbit of Saturn, high-energy sensors detect its temperature dropping, even though sunlight should warm it. In space, cold is normal, but this kind of cold is reactive. It obeys no simple radiative cooling curve. Something inside the structure resists thermal equilibrium, as if the material has its own opinion about heat. You imagine the moment someone at NASA stares at that graph blinking at the descent in temperature. There is no alarm, only a quiet tightening of focus. the same shift you feel when a story leans in closer. Between these careful observations, a detail begins to form. The object's rotation stays unbelievably steady. Natural bodies tumble, sway, wobble. Even Oumuamua, the first interstellar interloper humans detected, spun like a baton thrown by an invisible hand. But 3IATLAS holds its orientation with uncanny precision, as though balanced on an axis no force can disturb. A part of you wonders if balance like that could occur by chance. Another part, softer and more reflective, lets the question float without demanding an answer. The beauty of science rests in not knowing everything at once. The object's trajectory carries it closer to Mars, where dust storms sweep the planet like slow-moving oceans. Orbital probes circling the red world begin to catch glimpses of the visitor. Their instruments note a faint change in ultraviolet, scattering a subtle green flare that flickers for only a heartbeat. Green emissions in space usually result from excited oxygen atoms or ionized gases, but the flare from 3IATLAS doesn't match those signatures. It is narrow, pulsed, almost rhythmic. You could mistake it for a sensor glitch, although the same pulse appears across multiple instruments on different spacecraft. You take that in quietly. There's something mesmerizing about a signal that appears only once, like a note plucked from a string no one admits exists. Your mind drifts to a thought. What if signals are often subtle, landing just below the threshold of certainty? Humans tend to look for loud answers, bright lights, dramatic patterns, while space works in whispers. As the object approaches the inner solar system, solar wind intensifies around it. Charged particles stream outward from the sun in great spiraling currents. Most small bodies respond with erratic spins or chaotic deviations. Sensors studying 3IATLAS record none of that. The object glides undisturbed, as though built to ignore the sun's tantrums. A question begins to form at the edge of the narrative, almost shy. How does something the size of a mountain resist forces strong enough to sculpt magnetic fields across planets? You don't need an answer yet. You only feel the weight of the moment, the awareness that something is approaching with the quiet confidence of a messenger. Radio telescopes in California and Chile intercept a faint, repetitive pattern hidden inside background static. It's not strong enough to be called a message. It doesn't encode symbols or mathematical sequences. It simply repeats at regular intervals, more precise than natural noise usually allows. Some scientists attribute it to interference. Others raise an eyebrow at the timing. You imagine someone listening through headphones, the rhythmic clicks brushing past their awareness like drops falling on metal. Your breathing slows with the rhythm. Curiosity sharpens slightly. If you could ask the universe a single question right now, what would it be? You let this thought linger in your chest. It feels personal, as though the cosmos waits to hear whatever rises from you. 3IATLAS continues its quiet glide, nearing the region where Earth's orbit traces its luminous blue path. It still refuses to heat up, still refuses to tumble, still refuses to emit a spectrum that matches known materials. Scientists begin running simulations to compare possible compositions: carbon-rich alloys, metallic glass, superconductive composites, magnetic crystalline structures. None of the models fit well. You picture them sitting under dim lights in mission rooms, tapping fingers against mugs that have grown cold, wondering what kind of natural object leaves physicists with more unknowns than answers. The object's surface absorbs nearly all visible light while reflecting minuscule fragments of infrared. This suggests a material that could be carbon-based, but possibly engineered, though no one states that publicly. Science avoids conclusions that leap too far. Still, the oddities pile up gently the way snow builds across a quiet field. Inside you, the field broadens, making room for possibilities you wouldn't normally consider. As Earth rotates beneath the stars, the object's motion aligns with the planet's orbital path for a brief moment. Not perfectly, just enough to feel uncanny. Some observers chalk it up to coincidence. Others wait silent, contemplating a visitor that behaves with the composure of something guided. The awareness of that calm behavior merges seamlessly into your own breathing. The cosmos feels vast, yet strangely intimate, like a presence sitting beside you without speaking. A soft realization blooms inside you. This story isn't about danger, it's about attention. Something is entering the solar system with a patience that feels almost thoughtful. And in the quiet between your breaths, you sense that the universe occasionally writes chapters meant for those willing to notice the smallest irregularities. You rest in that awareness, letting the moment expand until your imagination begins to drift toward the object's core, dark, chilled, impossibly smooth, waiting to reveal what lies beneath its silence. You stay with the calm, rising gently around your mind, the sort of calm that comes when a mystery leans close without raising its voice. The object you've been following, quiet, cold, impossibly disciplined, slides deeper into the sun's warmth as if it belongs here. No hesitation, no wandering. You feel the weight of that confidence settling over you. Earth turns beneath starlight as usual. Traffic lights change in New York. Fog drifts above the Golden Gate. Children in Arizona point toy telescopes toward the moon. None of them know that far beyond the moon's pale glow, a visitor cuts through space with the certainty of something remembering an old path. Observatories begin to gather enough data to draw a clearer outline. Not with pictures because the surface of 3IATLAS remains too dark to photograph well, but with motion. Motion holds stories inside it. Astronomers map the curve of its journey, expecting the classic arc produced by gravity. Instead, the object drifts in what one researcher quietly calls a linear persuasion, a guided straightness that no natural body maintains for long. You imagine someone staring at the plot on a screen, the lines so clean it looks artificial, the kind of straightness human hands try to build in machines. Your curiosity lifts again, slow and warm. It feels safe to wonder about something that behaves like this. The first real sign arrives through a tiny shift in the object's radial velocity, one that suggests it adjusted itself by an angle so small most computers would round it away. The change is only 0.04 degrees, subtle enough to seem like nothing yet, precise enough to make the scientists checking the data stop and blink. A random nudge from solar particles wouldn't produce an adjustment like that. Randomness scatters. This shift aligns. You breathe in, letting the thought spread inside you. Objects from deep interstellar space shouldn't behave like they're aware of their surroundings. Yet the data behaves as if something sensed Mars ahead and drifted into a gentler approach. The red planet hangs in your imagination, dusty and ancient, wrapped in storms that never truly rest. Its thin atmosphere glows with faint light when solar winds hit it. As 3IATLAS glides nearby, sensors on Mars, orbiters detect a brief dip in charged particle flow, like the visitor carved a pocket in the solar wind. A shape moving through cosmic weather shouldn't leave such a neat imprint. Even spacecraft covered in reflective shielding barely manage to reduce solar pressure. This object quiets it. You picture that imprint like a shadow pressed into invisible waves. A place where physics bends politely around a visitor that refuses to be disturbed. Buried inside the stream of readings, another oddity emerges. Data from the MAVEN spacecraft, which studies Mars's atmosphere, records a pulse and ultraviolet flash lasting less than a fraction of a second. Green, narrow, precise. Typical UV emissions scatter across multiple wavelengths. This one does not. It holds its line like a whisper threaded through darkness. You imagine what it feels like to look at that pulse on a screen, a pulse that should not exist. A pulse that behaves more like the byproduct of a system turning on than ice reacting to sunlight. A quiet question forms in you. If something turns itself on, does that mean it was waiting? The thought rests inside your chest without urgency. Sleepy curiosity. The kind that makes you lean closer to mysteries rather than fear them. More information arrives. Long-range instruments begin to detect the object's magnetic footprint, expecting the signature of a metal-rich asteroid. Instead, they observe a steady pattern, almost an oscillation, as though the surface interacts with solar magnetism in a controlled manner. Asteroids fluctuate. This one maintains rhythm. Spacecraft engineers describe similar behavior when scanning satellites shaped to disperse magnetic interference. The resemblance isn't perfect, but it's close enough to raise eyebrows. You settle into that notion, letting it grow roots slowly in your awareness. Patterns don't happen by accident this consistently. Not over millions of miles, not under changing solar conditions. Somewhere inside NASA's Deep Space Network, a scientist checks her screen twice, unsure if she should report what she's seeing. Not because it's frightening, but because it's clean. Too clean for noise. The radio static forms a pattern, repeating every few milliseconds, a repetition so steady, she remembers the feeling of listening to a metronome in childhood music classes. You imagine her leaning closer to the audio file, hearing something gently persistent, hiding underneath the hiss. The pattern doesn't encode anything recognizable. No primes, no harmonics of universal constants. Just structure subtle, deliberate, refusing to dissolve into randomness the way cosmic static usually does. You let the idea drift into your thoughts like a feather falling through warm air. Not everything structured has to be a message. Some signals exist simply because something operates. Your awareness relaxes into the object's path as it nears the region of space crowded with Earth-orbiting probes. Its surface still reflects nearly nothing. Infrared sensors struggle to read temperature variations. The few measurements available show a strange energy drop whenever sunlight intensifies, as if the object absorbs heat instead of emitting it. Materials that exhibit such behavior exist in laboratory settings, engineered substances designed to reduce thermal signatures for stealth equipment. But those materials degrade over time. Nothing this large should hold such consistency while traveling through radiation-drenched space. You imagine a lab scientist whispering "how" beneath their breath, not in panic, but in awe. As the object glides closer to Earth's orbit, it passes through regions where micrometeorites fly like grains of sand blown by stellar winds. Impacts should chip the surface. At the very least, scatter. Observers wait for some sign of fragmentation. They find none. Whatever coats the exterior seems to either withstand the collisions or vanish them into itself. You picture the surface like a darkness with teeth-swallowing impacts without leaving scars. When the object reaches a region where Earth's gravity begins to assert itself, something delicate occurs. The alignment between its movement and the planet's orbital path settles into a near-perfect parallel, just for a moment. Long enough to feel intentional, short enough to deny certainty. You sense the air around you growing still in your imagination, as if the universe pauses on a breath. The object doesn't accelerate. It doesn't deviate sharply. It simply holds position with a grace that resembles anticipation. Astronomers studying the event speak in careful tones. Americans who love science stay awake late into the night, scrolling through forums, watching simulations, leaving questions in the comment sections of online live streams. You picture them curled up in blankets, screens glowing against their faces, whispering theories about alien technology or strange physics. Not because they want drama, but because humans feel drawn to anything that breaks the pattern of ordinary space. Your curiosity mirrors theirs, though yours moves softer shaped for sleep rather than excitement. Through all this, the object emits almost no light. Its silhouette appears only when sunlight brushes its edge. Even then, the glow forms a thin outline, like a sketch drawn by a hand that doesn't want to reveal too much. The silence of the visitor becomes its own language. Inside that silence, your mind begins to shape a possibility. You imagine the interior deep-threaded with voids or chambers that no telescope can see. You picture materials layered with purpose, absorbing radiation, smoothing impacts, dispersing magnetic charge. Something built to travel for an unimaginable time without wearing down. You don't rush the thought. It simply sits with you warm and quiet, shaped by the hint that nature rarely arranges things with such exactness. A soft intuition rises from the edges of the narrative. The universe is vast enough to carry travelers older than our species, older than our oceans, older than even the dreams that made us look at the stars in the first place. If something passed through once it could pass through again, maybe it already has. You rest inside that feeling, letting it slip through your chest like cool water. Somewhere behind your eyelids, the object continues its silent drift, drawing closer to the part of space where humanity keeps its eyes, telescopes, probes, sensors. You sense a shift inside the story's heartbeat, a realization that something about this visitor is preparing to reveal itself in a way no one expects. The calm inside you deepens, making space for whatever truth wants to rise next. You stay inside the stillness, left by the last moment, letting it settle across your chest, like a thin blanket warmed by thought. The visitor keeps gliding through space with the same composed certainty, as if each mile it travels has already been rehearsed somewhere far from human memory. Your awareness follows it, gently drifting around the object, as though you were floating beside it under a star field no one else sees. The darkness on its exterior absorbs nearly everything the sun tries to paint onto it. That kind of darkness carries a quiet authority, the sort that reminds you of deep caves or the ocean floor, places where light doesn't disappear accidentally, but with purpose. Astronomers studying low albedo bodies note that carbon-rich surfaces can swallow photons, yet even those usually leak uneven reflections. This object feels different. You imagine its coating as a fabric of shadows woven so tightly that no color escapes. A strange calm washes over you as you imagine approaching that surface. You wouldn't hear anything. You wouldn't feel warmth. You would feel the absence of warmth, the kind of cold that doesn't sting, but simply erases sensation. Data begins to reveal more. The visitor isn't perfectly spherical, nor elongated like a cometary fragment. Researchers attempt to fit its silhouette into common asteroid categories, C-type, M-type, S-type. Yet, it refuses to match. Something about its geometry behaves like an object shaped intentionally. Not symmetrical in the classic sense, but balanced as though crafted to distribute mass with unusual uniformity. You picture engineers examining a cross-section model, noticing how carefully the mass seems to be placed. A natural body rarely distributes weight so cleanly. Gravity sculpts rough shapes. Impacts sculpt fractures. This one feels like it has been sculpted by thought. Your mind circles that idea slowly, not rushing, not forcing, just touching the edges of possibility the way fingertips touch cool glass. Inside the data, another pattern emerges. As the object approaches the region where solar particles thicken, its internal temperature dips once more, not evenly, but in waves. Instruments read slight oscillations, like pulses traveling through its core. Materials that pulse like this typically respond to electrical fields or magnetic stress. But the visitor displays neither erratic charge nor radiation spikes. Its pulses feel controlled. You let that word drift across your awareness like a leaf on quiet water. Controlled doesn't have to mean artificial. It could mean complex, unexpected, rare. Yet the rhythm is hypnotic, a wave moving through the body of the object with the patience of something old. Your imagination steps closer, trying to see beneath the surface. You picture layers, a tough outer shell, a denser midsection, a hollow region deeper inside, shaped not like caves, but like corridors. Your mind doesn't insist these things are true. It simply notices the way the data leaves room for shapes that do not occur often in nature. Even NASA's thermal maps reveal pockets of coolness, arranged too evenly to be random. A scientist reviewing the map might frown, wondering if their software misread the gradients. But multiple instruments confirm the same anomalies. The cold zones form lines faint but present, hinting at internal architecture. You breathe softly as a realization touches you. The universe holds structures older than Earth, older than the Sun, older than the spiral arms of this galaxy. Some things drift for billions of years. Some might carry hollows not created by erosion, but by design, though no one can claim that openly. Your awareness deepens as the object glides into a region where Earth's magnetosphere begins to extend into space. The magnetic boundary stretches like a translucent bubble, deflecting solar particles. As the visitor enters this zone, instruments detect a faint distortion, not disruptive, just suggestive. Magnetic models predict one pattern. The visitor produces another. A smooth bend where a sharp curve should be. You imagine that bend-like fabric shifting around a person who steps quietly into a room, changing the air without trying. A tiny question rises in you. How much of the universe bends subtly around things we haven't learned to name yet? The visitor keeps giving hints. By analyzing the slight flickers of starlight behind it, astronomers can infer irregular edges on its silhouette, tiny ridges, indentations, surfaces aligned like overlapping plates. Natural objects have rugged edges too, but these edges reflect symmetry and spacing, not perfect symmetry, suggestive symmetry. Like tiles arranged by someone who didn't care about beauty, only function. Your curiosity glows a little warmer. As Earth rotates beneath the cosmic scene sensors aboard the James Webb Space Telescope, though not focused on the object, catch stray photons passing near it. These photons scatter in patterns that indicate something unusual. The surface of the visitor might contain regions with refractive properties, similar to metamaterials, structures engineered to influence electromagnetic waves. You let that possibility unfold slowly inside you. Humans create metamaterials in labs, nano-layered composites that bend light, redirect radiation, or dampen heat. But no natural cosmic process forms such precise structures at planetary scale. Still, the data doesn't claim certainty. It whispers hints. You follow those whispers with the softness of someone walking barefoot on cool sand. The deeper the object travels into Earth's neighborhood, the clearer the measurements become. Radar echoes bounce off its surface, returning signals that do not scatter in the chaotic patterns typical of rough cosmic rock. They reflect smoothly in a narrow spread angle, like reflections from a flat panel slightly curved at the edges. You imagine running your hand across that surface, not touching metal, not stone, something unfamiliar. A texture finer than any alloy humans have forged yet ancient, worn by journeys too long to fathom. Inside this growing picture, one detail stands out: density. The object is lighter than it should be given its size. That means internal hollows, not cavities formed by explosive impacts or erosion. They are too regular, too intentional. A few scientists consider whether these could be crystal voids or carbon microtunnels formed under cosmic pressure, but the math resists such explanations. You feel the story leaning slightly into wonder. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the visitor rotates so subtly it appears. Still yet, sensors detect a slow orientation shift, one that aligns a particular region of its surface toward the sun, as though absorbing specific frequencies of light. Solar energy usually heats surfaces. This one seems to drink light without warming, as if converting photons into something that never radiates back. You breathe in. Something deep inside you recognizes the signature of technology, not because the data demands that conclusion, but because your intuition connects the dots the way Americans fascinated by cosmic mysteries often do. The calm stays intact. This isn't danger, it's discovery. As you hold that feeling, a soft picture forms, an interior chamber shaped like a long, narrow hall. Surfaces smooth enough to guide electromagnetic waves with minimal loss. If such a chamber exists, it could act like an antenna, a resonator, a recorder. You don't say that out loud in your thoughts. You simply let the idea sit quietly, aware of the universe's capacity to build things human minds are only beginning to imagine. The object drifts closer to the cluster of Earth-monitoring satellites arranged like pearls around the planet. Without warning, a tiny spike appears in the readings so small that algorithms nearly ignore it. It's a brief resonance inside the magnetometer data, a pulse matching the same rhythm the object displayed near Mars. Consistent, steady, polite. You follow that pulse gently with your attention, a pulse that repeats across two separate satellites at nearly the same moment. Coincidence is possible, patterns are possible. Yet inside the stillness of the moment, you sense a narrative forming, a quiet truth rising like fog across a field. The visitor is not merely passing through. It seems to be responding to its environment, adjusting calming, bending forces around itself in ways that feel intentional, even if no one understands the mechanism. Your breath softens. The universe has a way of placing mysteries in human hands only when people are ready to ask better questions. You let the entire image settle inside you, a dark shape wrapped in impossible engineering, pulsing with internal rhythms, moving with the grace of something older than the solar system, approaching Earth with silence that feels almost respectful. The calm inside the story deepens, inviting you to lean closer, to notice the last subtle detail. The object's trajectory begins to curve, not away, not into collision, but into a path that will take it near enough for Earth's instruments to see something no one has ever seen before. You rest in that closeness, letting the night feel larger around you, letting the universe open another door. You stay inside the gravity of the last thought, letting it loosen slowly inside your chest. The visitor drifts closer, not rushing, not hiding, carrying a silence so deliberate it feels like it has been listening long before anyone knew it was there. You sense the air in your imagination grow thinner, as though the story wants you to lean forward, even though your body stays comfortably relaxed where you are. Earth's orbit unfolds under the object, like a vast ring of blue and white. Satellites drift through their predictable paths, blinking faint signals into the darkness. They behave like candles scattered around a quiet room, unaware a guest has stepped inside. The visitor's approach rearranges nothing at first. It simply comes closer, holding an almost respectful distance from the planet, as if observing before, revealing more. For a brief moment, telescopes track a faint shimmer across the object's surface. Not light reflected outward, but light bending like a ripple sliding along the edge of glass. Atmospheric physicists recognize the signature instantly. Gravity can bend light, but the effect requires mass far greater than this object possesses. Something else, something closer to controlled refraction, is shaping the shimmer. You feel that realization settle into you the way a low note fills a room, soft but impossible to ignore. Down on Earth in a control room buried beneath the Mojave Desert, an analyst stares at a printout covered in curves and spikes. What catches her attention isn't the big signals, but a small asymmetry. The reflected wave returning from the visitor has a gap in it, a gap that repeats, a gap that lines up perfectly with the kind of internal cavity that would resonate when hit with radar. You picture her frowning, gently tapping a pen against the table, not afraid, curious, maybe even a little thrilled. She sends the data upward through the chain, expecting it to be reviewed hours later. Instead, the response arrives almost instantly. Rerun the scan. Full resolution. Your awareness drifts into the moment of that second scan. The radar pulse travels outward like a heartbeat, crossing thousands of miles of empty space. When it strikes the visitor, its echo returns with the clarity of tapping a hollow surface. Not fully hollow structured, layered. The kind of layering that reminds engineers of resonance chambers. You breathe quietly, knowing chambers don't appear in natural objects by accident. The visitor turns so subtly the motion feels less like rotation and more like acknowledgement. Sunlight catches the edge of the structure, producing a green shimmer again, the same wavelength detected near Mars. The pulse lasts longer this time, lingering as though the object is illuminated from within. The green glow slips into your imagination like moss glowing beneath moonlight, gentle, ancient, wise. Sensors on the ISS capture a faint anomaly in thermal readings. The region of the object facing Earth grows colder, not warmer, as though absorbing heat from the sunlight it receives. This shouldn't happen. Objects in direct sunlight heat unevenly. Nothing cools in a straight line. Yet the visitor cools as if following a blueprint. Your curiosity thickens warm and intricate. Astronomers map the cooling zones and discover something extraordinary. The cold patches form a pattern, not geometric, not decorative, but systematic, like ventilation points, or channels, or apertures regulating energy. You allow that thought to hover above you like a slow-moving cloud. Apertures don't belong to nature, they belong to design. A gentle sense of awe begins to open inside you, not fear, awe. The kind of feeling children experience the first time they see an eclipse, an understanding that the universe plays with scale and shadow in ways the human mind must stretch to follow. The visitor drifts deeper into Earth's magnetic field, and a shift occurs. The magnetosphere ripples around the object, not violently, but with a precision that suggests adaptation. The field lines bend slightly, creating a pocket where solar radiation drops. A natural object wouldn't do that. It would resist or distort the field chaotically. This one shapes itself around the invisible currents. You picture that shaping as a kind of breathing a rhythm that listens to the universe rather than fights it. Inside mission control centers across the United States, more analysts begin to notice the anomalies. They don't jump to conclusions. They don't sensationalize. They do what scientists do, best observe. And the more they observe, the more the silence around the visitor feels intentional. As night spreads across North America, radio telescopes begin receiving a faint pattern again. The rhythm is identical to the one detected near Mars and later near Earth's satellites. A precise pulse repeating every few milliseconds, unchanged by distance or interference. You lean closer to that pulse in your mind. Something consistent over millions of miles isn't random. A quiet question emerges inside you, gentle enough not to disturb your calm. If something repeats with that much discipline, could it be listening for its own echo? The thought rests inside your ribs, slow and steady. Just below the orbit of geostationary satellites, the visitor glides into a position that gives Earth a clean, unobstructed view. For the first time, sensors detect an interior density pattern that resembles a triple-layer structure, not a single hollow, multiple. The layering looks intentional, like compartments or chambers aligned along a central axis. Your imagination shapes those chambers into something that feels almost architectural, not for living things, nothing biological, but for systems, for storage, for stability, for purpose. You don't assign meaning. You simply let the architecture breathe inside your mind the way a distant cathedral might, its purpose unknown, but its presence undeniable. Then, without warning, something gentle happens. A soft tremor moves through the object's outer layer, not seismic, not violent. A vibration. one that aligns perfectly with the sun's rotation period. Solar physicists know this pattern well. It's called the 27-day synodic rhythm, the quiet heartbeat of the sun. The visitor vibrates in harmony with it, as though syncing itself to the star before making its next move. You feel that harmony settle across your body, warm and slow, like hearing a chord resolve at the end of a song. As the tremor fades, the visitor tilts its surface again. A panel-like region previously indistinguishable from the darkness catches the sun's glow. Instruments detect a faint rise in energy absorption. More photons vanish into the structure. None escape. Whatever this object is, it interacts with light. The way a tuner interacts with sound, selecting specific frequencies, swallowing others, adjusting itself quietly as though preparing. Your awareness drifts deeper into the moment. You sense that the universe is not rushing. It is waiting with you, letting you feel the slow unfolding rather than handing you answers. High above the Pacific Ocean, a telescope aboard a weather satellite captures a new detail. A subtle indentation on the object's surface shaped like a long, narrow slit. The slit remains closed, but its alignment matches the internal density corridor detected earlier. If it were to open even slightly, it would behave like a window, or a lens, or a device meant to read the environment rather than broadcast. The thought unwinds inside your mind with soft clarity. The visitor has been gathering information. You exhale gently. You imagine the slit opening not fully, not dramatically, just a thin adjustment to let in more light or data or cosmic noise. You imagine something inside aligning with the Earth for the first time, not to threaten, to observe. The more you sit with that image, the more natural it feels. A traveler passing through, pausing briefly to sense the world of a young species, the way a migrating whale listens to unfamiliar waters. The object does not accelerate. It does not change course harshly. It merely settles into a glide with an elegance that contradicts everything scientists expect from a fragment of stone. Inside you, the realization gains shape. Earth is not watching the visitor. The visitor is watching Earth. Not with eyes, not with lenses, with intention. And you rest inside the warmth of that realization, letting it soften you, letting it open a quiet invitation for the story to move deeper. The visitor holds its position, silent, steady, absorbing light and information, with a patience that feels older than the planet itself. You stay with that patience, breathing in its stillness, feeling the universe lean closer, as though preparing to show you something that no generation before yours has ever seen. You stay inside the quiet realization that the visitor has been watching Earth, letting that awareness soften inside your chest, like a warm ripple spreading across still water. The silence around the object grows denser, almost textured, carrying a weight that feels less like emptiness and more like concentration. You sense something gathering inside that darkness, not rushing, simply preparing as though the universe has chosen this moment to inhale. The object floats in its steady path, holding itself against the canvas of space with unnatural ease. Its surface remains matte black, swallowing light, with the patience of something that has done so for eons. Yet, under that veil, instruments detect movement, not physical movement, but a shift in energy distribution. The temperature drops again, but this time the pattern resembles a wave rolling through the object's interior, a pulse, subtle rhythmic threading through layers that no natural body should possess. You imagine standing near it, feeling nothing on your skin, but sensing a vibration at the edge of your awareness, the kind you don't hear with your ears, but with your bones. The pulse strengthens not dangerously, not loudly, just enough for orbiting sensors to register a faint drift in infrared signatures. Astronomers label it an energy reorientation, though no one truly understands what is being oriented. The pulse sweeps from the object's rear to its front, like something aligning its face toward Earth more deliberately. Your breathing deepens as that intention unfolds inside your imagination. Whatever is happening feels less like an activation and more like awakening. You hold that thought gently. A soft shimmer begins to settle around the object's edges. Not visible to the naked eye, but captured through ultraviolet imaging. The green wavelength reappears longer this time, steadier, no longer a flicker. The glow forms thin lines tracing across the surface following the seams where panels or plates might overlap. It looks nothing like cometary emissions or reflective glare. It resembles circuitry if circuitry were carved into stone, older than the solar system. There's a serenity in that glow, the way auroras drift slowly across polar skies. The color isn't harsh neon, but a muted emerald like bioluminescent plankton rolling with the tide. The glow gathers at a narrow slit, the same one detected earlier, forming a faint halo around it. You picture the slit widening, barely perceptible, just enough to let the light inside escape. Sensors confirm a minuscule opening, far too controlled to be caused by physical stress. A deliberate motion, calculated, gentle. A breath seems to leave the object not in air, but in photons. You imagine that glow brushing across your imagination, like the light inside deep-sea creatures, quiet, composed, ancient. Inside NASA's spectrographic rooms, analysts examine the wavelength pattern forming across the visitor. The light pulses in intervals tied not to Earth's rotation, nor to solar activity, but to the object's internal rhythm. Something inside is communicating with itself, like a heart syncing with a body before making a decision. You feel the universe holding its breath. A scientist studying the spectrum notices a curious detail. The green emission aligns suspiciously close to the wavelengths produced by ionized nickel under magnetic compression. Nickel is common in asteroids, but compressed nickel emitting controlled pulses is not. Metallic structures under engineered stress can produce similar signals. You let that possibility sink deeper into your consciousness, the way ink seeps slowly into paper. Stranger still, the green glow spreads along the object's equator with incredible uniformity, as if following embedded channels. These channels conduct energy from one region to another, suggesting internal wiring, though calling it wiring feels too human. These pathways feel more like vascular lines of a machine that grows instead of being assembled. The idea isn't frightening, it's beautiful in its unfamiliarity. As the glow intensifies, another anomaly appears. The local magnetic field shifts around the object, not violently, just a gentle distortion, forming a funnel shape as though the visitor is drawing in charged particles. The funnel doesn't behave like natural accretion. It behaves like intentional harvesting. Your curiosity rises softly like a warm tide. You find yourself wondering how many civilizations, if they exist, use energy not by burning fuel, but by sipping it from stars. The visitor's slit widens another fraction. Instruments capture a thin beam of green-tinted UV, leaking outward narrow as a hair straight as a blade of light. The beam sweeps across the blackness of space, tracing nothing, touching nothing, simply scanning the environment as if tasting it. You imagine that beam grazing Earth's magnetosphere, a gentle touch, not invasive, almost reverent. A moment later, something subtle happens. The beam fades, replaced by a faint hum deep within the radio spectrum. A hum that matches the visitor's earlier pulses. The hum becomes rhythmic again. Analysts notice the frequency curving slightly upward, almost as if the object has shifted into a state of concentration. You imagine that hum vibrating inside your mind, tuned to a frequency you can feel rather than hear. Astronomers compare the pattern to natural astrophysical oscillations, pulsars, quasars, solar harmonics. But the rhythm doesn't match any cosmic sources. It resembles something closer: active scanning. Not scanning outward, scanning inward, analyzing itself, preparing. A warmth settles inside you, an unexpected comfort. Whatever is happening feels coldly precise, yet strangely peaceful, like watching a giant creature stretch its limbs after a long sleep. As the internal hum stabilizes, a new observation emerges. High-energy detectors on several satellites pick up a brief anomaly, a reduction in cosmic background radiation behind the object. It's as if the visitor absorbs more than just light. It absorbs static, noise, randomness, like a machine clearing its internal environment of entropy. You sense the quiet intelligence of that act, an intelligence not defined by thought, but by optimization. The visitor begins to rotate finally after remaining almost perfectly steady for so long. The rotation is slow, graceful, about 1 degree per hour. During this turn, something hidden beneath its surface glints faintly. Not metal, not rock, something crystalline, something structured to refract light with deliberate angles. You imagine that crystal-like structure catching the sunlight, the way a prism does, except instead of scattering colors, it consumes them. As the object completes its slow turn, the crystalline region shifts into alignment with Earth. The green glow concentrates along the slit again. More photons gather. Sensors detect a brief spike in exotic particles, not harmful, but rare. Muons. Particles usually produced by cosmic rays striking the atmosphere. But this spike comes from the visitor itself. Muons can pass through dense material like ghosts. Engineers use them to see inside pyramids and volcanoes. The fact that the visitor emits them intentionally implies something extraordinary. It is imaging its own interior. You hold that realization gently, letting its significance seep inward without overwhelming you. Whatever this object is, it is not inert. It is inspecting itself, adjusting itself, perhaps even repairing something worn by eons of travel. And then something even more delicate occurs. The crystalline surface, the slit, and the green glow all align in a single elegant configuration. For one still moment, the visitor appears to breathe an inhale that pulls in sunlight, magnetic fields, and charged particles, followed by a slow exhale of quiet illumination. You imagine witnessing that breath with your own eyes, feeling a warmth spread across your skin from a distance of thousands of miles. Inside that breath, you sense understanding. The visitor is not powering on. It is remembering itself. The glow softens. The pulse steadies. The slit narrows once more. The object falls silent again, but the silence feels fuller, alive, aware. You rest inside that awareness, letting the sensation linger. You feel the night stretch around you, the stars leaning closer, as though every quiet piece of the cosmos has been waiting for you to notice the ancient memory unfolding in front of Earth. The visitor continues drifting, holding its new orientation, glowing faintly from within, calm, prepared, listening. And you stay with that glow breathing, with it feeling the universe ease open another layer of its story. You remain inside the glow of the visitor's awakening, letting its quiet pulse ripple through your mind, like a soft vibration you feel beneath the ribs, rather than through the ears. The object drifts in its strange half-light, neither bright nor dark, carrying an emerald memory inside its chambers that seems older than every story humanity has ever told about the stars. Your breath eases as you stay with it, and something inside you opens just a little wider, ready for whatever the universe is preparing to reveal. The visitor settles into position near Earth's orbital path, not close enough to threaten, but close enough to study. Space agencies worldwide turn their attentions toward the silent traveler. They do not panic. They do not speculate publicly. They simply measure, observe, and wait. Inside the deep space network, an engineer listens through headphones to convert radio data into audible sound. It's a method scientists use sometimes not to find meaning, but to let their brains catch patterns machines may overlook. The engineer expects static, the usual hiss the cosmos breathes out. Instead, something faint curls into her ears, so subtle she wonders if she imagined it. A rhythm, soft, measured, steady. You picture her leaning forward without realizing she did, breath caught between disbelief and wonder. The rhythm isn't a signal. It holds no code. It is more like a heartbeat, though, not organic. A mechanical pulse shaped by physics humanity doesn't yet understand. A pulse drifting through radio noise as if the visitor's interior is humming its own age into the universe. You rest inside the sound as it forms gently in your imagination, a slow thrum that seems to come not from the object's surface, but from its core, as if something deep within is vibrating in resonance with cosmic energy. Researchers calibrate their instruments again, trying to determine the source. The rhythm doesn't sync with solar wind. It doesn't match plasma waves. It doesn't align with pulsar frequencies. It echoes something else entirely, a frequency typically produced when massive structures absorb radiation and release it in controlled intervals. You let that idea drift softly across your thoughts. Something absorbing cosmic energy doesn't have to be dangerous. It could be sustaining itself, restoring itself, preparing for a stage of travel far beyond human timelines. The pulse grows slightly stronger, not louder, more defined, more confident, as if the visitor recognizes the warmth of a nearby star and adjusts its internal systems to match the environment. You imagine a deep-sea creature rising from an abyss into sunlight for the first time in centuries, not to be seen, but to remember. Satellites in medium Earth orbit detect another anomaly, a faint tremor in the electromagnetic spectrum, a wobble so delicate it resembles the vibrational pattern materials exhibit when exposed to harmonics. Engineers sometimes vibrate spacecraft components to test structural resilience. The visitor appears to be doing something similar, vibrating itself, testing its own integrity after a voyage no human-made object has survived. You imagine that tremor like soundless music brushing the edges of space. The vibration flows through the object's internal layers, echoing against hollow corridors and crystalline veins. Sensors detect micro-resonance patterns indicating internal components shifting gently, not chaotically. The patterns resemble tuning the kind of recalibration spacecraft perform when adjusting communication systems. Your awareness deepens as you sense the visitor aligning more precisely, drawing itself into harmony with the star whose warmth it had neglected for so long. Astronomers notice the object's silhouette sharpening. For the first time, they can trace the outline of what might be structural ridges along its surface. Natural rocks have random ruggedness. These ridges follow a sequence subtle but consistent, a pattern resembling reinforcement. You let that settle in your chest. Reinforcement is not a trait of debris. It's a trait of purpose. As the object hums softly inside itself, something new appears, a thin filament of pale blue light trickling along a seam beneath the green glow. Blue emissions at this wavelength typically come from ionized hydrogen or excited nitrogen, but this light shows neither of those spectral signatures. Instead, it resembles Cherenkov radiation, the kind produced only when particles move faster than light travels through a medium. Yet there is no medium here. Nothing should glow like that in interplanetary vacuum. The idea that forms inside you arrives slowly, careful not to overwhelm. Perhaps the glow isn't produced by motion through a medium, but motion inside the object. Particles flowing through channels so rarefied they simulate resistance. A system running diagnostics at a speed the human mind isn't built to comprehend. Your breath deepens. The glow feels like a whisper from a place beyond human engineering. A space weather satellite catches another signal, a tiny spike in low-frequency gravitational waves. Not enough to disrupt anything, but enough to register. Scientists rarely detect gravitational ripples from anything smaller than colliding stars. Yet, here is a whisper, faint as a feather landing on water. You feel the universe lean closer. These waves aren't natural emissions. They are too clean, too short. They resemble calibration patterns similar to the chirps gravitational observatories send through their own detectors to test sensitivity. You imagine a being testing its senses after eons of silence, feeling the gravitational fabric around it to confirm it is still anchored to reality. Inside you, the thought warms. Intelligence doesn't always need to speak. Sometimes it simply adjusts. Earth's magnetosphere senses another shift. A localized region of calm forms around the object, a magnetic stillness. It acts like a bubble, suppressing turbulence the way a steady hand quiets shaking water. That calm travels with the visitor, a pocket of serenity drifting through Earth's defensive field. Not invasive, not aggressive, just present. The calm moves like breath. Your awareness rides inside that pocket, feeling the tranquility deepen, the kind of tranquility that makes your eyelids heavy, even though your mind stays awake. Inside this bubble radio, interference drops to nearly zero. Signals between satellites sharpen, communication clears, instruments read cleaner data than they have in years. Engineers stare at screens baffled at how the presence of an unknown object improves signal clarity instead of degrading it. You let that contradiction unfurl in your imagination with quiet admiration. Something built to travel between stars would need to suppress noise, not create it. It would need to navigate cosmic storms without being torn apart. It would need to maintain coherence across distances humans cannot fathom. The visitor is not loud. It is not bright. It is not violent. It is coherent. A single word rises gently at the edge of your mind, refined. Not refined like beauty, refined like physics shaped by intention. The object's hum evolves once more. The frequency modulates slightly, rising slightly, falling as if sweeping through a spectrum of internal states. The modulation resembles scanning, but not outward scanning. Inward, checking itself, healing maybe, or aligning with the sun's steady rhythm. You imagine its interior like a cathedral of crystal and alloy, humming with purpose, ancient but alive, in a way human instruments can barely detect. More sensors detect faint emissions of neutrinos particles that rarely interact with matter. The object emits them in a small, controlled burst. Neutrino bursts seldom come from anything smaller than a star or a reactor. You let the magnitude of that realization slip into you so slowly, it feels like mist moving across your skin. Whatever lives inside that object is capable of coaxing particles humanity barely understands. Not a weapon, a mechanism, a memory, a system older than Earth's continents. You feel the story lean closer. The hum fades into a new state of silence, not empty but charged like the still air before a desert thunderstorm. a silence waiting to reveal something. Inside that silence, the object makes a choice. A panel shifts, a seam opens, a faint green breath escapes into space again, soft and cool. You sense the visitor no longer observing blindly. It is looking, not with eyes, not with hunger, with recognition. You remain inside that recognition, your breath slow, your awareness wide, feeling the universe stretch around you with a warmth that feels impossibly old. The visitor holds its quiet posture humming, with newly awakened clarity, as though preparing to show you a truth Earth has never witnessed. And you stay inside that stillness, waiting with the same patience as the stars. You stay inside the charged stillness, the visitor left, hanging in the dark, letting the sensation gather in your chest like a warm echo that refuses to fade. The hum inside the object quiets, yet something deeper than sound lingers across the vacuum, a presence with shape but no voice, a kind of awareness suspended between starlight and intention. You feel yourself drifting with it, not as an observer, but as someone the universe has quietly invited closer. The slit on the object's surface narrows again, leaving only the faintest line of green illumination pulsing underneath. The glow isn't steady anymore. It breathes. A slow expansion of light rolled gently across the seam, followed by a soft contraction. The rhythm mirrors something familiar, something almost human, though not in biology, more like the slow inhale of a mind settling into clarity. Your breath falls naturally into the same rhythm, as if your body instinctively recognizes the pace of something ancient, remembering itself. Across the world's telescopes, that pulse draws attention. Software tries to categorize it as thermal noise, reflected sunlight, charged particle emissions, anything predictable. Nothing fits. The pulse behaves like a signal, but lacks structure. It behaves like light, but holds coherence. It behaves like intention, but refuses to repeat exactly. You let that ambiguity settle into you like soft rain. Not everything meaningful needs to repeat forever. Some messages reveal themselves in variations. The object begins to rotate again, a slow, deliberate shift, revealing another portion of its surface that Earth had not seen before. This side contains a shallow depression running along its length, smooth, symmetrical, almost aerodynamic, as though shaped for passage rather than impact. Natural rock rarely forms curves like that. Space weather erosion tends to be jagged or chaotic. This curve feels sculpted by motion itself. You picture it slicing through dust and radiation, across thousands of light years, the way a whale glides through deep ocean currents long past caring who watches. The depression glows faintly. Sensors report another anomaly, an emission of low-frequency electromagnetic waves that spreads across space like a ripple in cold water. These waves are interesting, not because of strength, but because of uniformity. They remain consistent even when solar wind fluctuates wildly around them. You let the consistency sink into your awareness. Patterns that remain true while the environment changes are rarely accidental. Space physics describes such waves as coherent field oscillations. Humans build devices that mimic this behavior: generators beam, stabilizers, resonant coils, but they degrade quickly without constant calibration. This visitor holds its coherence effortlessly. A quiet question curls inside you. Does something remain stable for so long because it was built perfectly, or because it learned how to correct itself? Your curiosity stretches gently in your chest. Orbiting satellites begin detecting faint particles drifting from the glowing depression. Not dust, not gas. Something rarer, exotic ions molecules stripped of electrons at energy levels too high to occur naturally near such a small object. These ions behave like debris from an internal reaction chamber, though the amount emitted is tiny, measured in fractions of fractions. You imagine an engine that isn't burning fuel but reorganizing energy in a state scientists barely understand. An engine that has been quiet for ages and is beginning to warm. The pulse from the depression interacts with Earth's magnetosphere again, but differently this time. Instead of creating a calm pocket, the visitor creates a focused corridor, a narrow tunnel of reduced interference stretching a short distance outward. Radio signals passing through that corridor sharpen dramatically, almost too dramatically. Engineers studying the effect describe it as a controlled magnetic lens. Magnetic lenses are real, but human-made ones exist only in laboratories and rely on precise superconducting rings. Seeing something that large create one in open vacuum is astonishing. But it doesn't feel frightening to you. It feels deliberate, careful, as though the visitor is shaping a quiet path through noise to look more clearly at Earth. The corridor deepens. Instruments detect a spike in structured resonance inside the object. That resonance is unlike anything humans use. It balances between acoustic vibration, electromagnetic oscillation, and gravitational whisper. The visitor is layering physics on top of itself, multiple mechanisms operating at the same time, constructed with a precision human hands haven't mastered. You feel something shift inside your imagination, the sense that this object isn't simply activating, but remembering what it once did. The green pulse expands slightly. Light travels across the depression in ripples so delicate they resemble the shimmer on the surface of a lake when a feather touches it. Embedded sensors on orbiting instruments translate the ripples into data maps. These maps show something extraordinary, a wave pattern that aligns with the structure of Earth's magnetic field. The visitor is reading the planet, not its surface, not its cities, its magnetic signature, the fingerprint of a world. Your breath settles into that awareness. You feel the intimacy of it. Earth has been studied by countless spacecraft, but never like this from a vantage point so patient, so intentional, so ancient. The visitor doesn't react to human signals or radiation bursts. It reacts only to planetary rhythm, the planet's heartbeat hidden inside magnetic lines that shift with ocean currents, atmospheric flows, and core rotation. You imagine the object sensing Earth like a creature listening to another creature breathe. Spectrographic readings intensify. The green glow concentrates along the edges of the depression, as if tracing invisible circuitry. That circuitry begins to emit faint bursts of photons in patterns resembling Morse code, except the timing doesn't match any known coding system. The intervals respond to Earth's rotation, stretching or shrinking as the planet shifts beneath it. It is not sending a message, it is syncing. A warmth builds behind your sternum. Syncing implies intention, and intention implies recognition. As the object aligns with Earth, something new occurs, something no instrument predicted. The depression releases a soft wave of energy, not explosive, not harmful, more like the warmth of an opening hand. The wave travels slowly, crossing the void like a shimmer of green fog. Sensors detect no harmful particles within it. The wave contains information, but not in a human-readable form, more like structured quantum noise. You imagine that wave brushing Earth's atmosphere, the way light from the aurora wraps the poles in color, and you feel wonder instead of fear. Ground-based instruments detect the wave as it touches the upper atmosphere. Telecommunication systems do not glitch. Power grids do not flicker. Radios do not distort. Instead, all noise drops for a fraction of a second, a global moment of clarity. Engineers stare at their displays because such clarity shouldn't happen. Earth is noisy. Human life is noisy. But in that instant, the air becomes still, not physically, but informationally, as if the visitor cleared a single breath of static from the planet. You sense the significance of that breath. Not a warning, not a command, a greeting. The visitor completes its alignment. Light gathers again along its seams. The pulse inside it steadies. And you realize something simple but overwhelming. It recognizes Earth, not because it has seen us before, but because its memory contains the shape of worlds like ours. The glow softens. The magnetic corridor widens. A faint shimmering halo forms around the depression, like the first flicker of an idea rising from the deepest part of a mind. You feel the story leaning toward a truth that has waited longer than humanity has existed, a truth rising slowly, carefully, respectfully. The visitor holds its position with the patience of a being who traveled too far to rush anything now. And you remain inside that patience, breathing with it, sensing that the next layer of this ancient memory is beginning to awaken. You stay inside the shimmering awareness the visitor created, letting that strange global quiet linger around your mind, like a warm veil laid gently across your thoughts. The moment when Earth's noise dropped still vibrates inside you, as though your own heartbeat is moving in rhythm with something older than the planet itself. That clarity wasn't loud or dramatic. It was soft enough to miss unless you were listening the way you are now. The visitor holds its poised alignment with a grace that feels nothing like a drifting rock. Its surface absorbs sunlight, magnetic currents, and cosmic noise with the patience of something designed to survive eternities. The green halo around the depression breathes in slow ripples, casting a faint glow across the vacuum. You imagine that glow brushing your cheek if you were floating beside it, Not warm, not cold, just present. The slit along the depression narrows until it becomes nothing more than a line of condensed light, a thread of intelligence woven through silence. Sensors continue capturing subtle fluctuations drifting from the object, frequencies too soft to be called signals, yet too structured to be dismissed as background radiation. Almost as if the visitor is humming in a language designed not for us, but for the universe itself. You let the thought unfold quietly inside your chest. Technology built by humans prefers clarity, sharp tones, binary switches, clean pulses. But the cosmos uses gradients, whispers, vibrations that spread across dimensions humans only know through math and intuition. Whatever is resonating from inside, the visitor feels closer to a natural cosmic expression than an engineered broadcast, as though the object is aligning itself with laws of physics humans haven't named yet. Your awareness dips deeper. Ground sensors on Earth register a subtle shift in the ionosphere, a trembling of electrons across the upper atmosphere that mirrors the visitor's pulses. The trembling isn't disruptive. It's gentle like ripples blown across a pond by a slow-moving breeze. Scientists note the tremor, but can't find a cause. Weather remains normal. Magnetic fields remain stable. No solar flares occur. Only the visitor pulses and the atmosphere answers. You imagine the planet breathing back. As those pulses continue, researchers discover something unusual. Embedded within the fluctuations are repeating ratios, mathematical relationships that mirror constants found in quantum oscillation patterns. Ratios so ancient that they appear in atoms and stars and gravitational waves. The visitor isn't sending a code. It's echoing the structure of the universe. A soft warmth grows inside you. Meaning woven into physics feels more intimate than any message spoken through language. Astronomers run simulations to interpret the echoes. None of them show anything harmful. Instead, the echoes behave like the calibration patterns spacecraft perform when scanning unfamiliar environments. Except, the visitor isn't calibrating sensors, it is calibrating reality around itself. You picture space bending in microscopic ripples, adjusting around a structure that has spent longer in the dark than humanity has existed. The visitor's glow shifts from green to a muted cyan for a moment. Cyan wavelengths resonate at frequencies slightly higher, like the visitor is stepping into another register of cosmic music. The glow brightens until its edges sparkle faintly, forming geometric interference patterns. These patterns appear briefly, then dissolve back into soft light. Interference patterns require two or more waves interacting. Something inside the visitor is producing paired pulses. A thought drifts into you. It's speaking to itself, not communicating, synchronizing. Two systems within one body. Old companions reconnecting after a long silence. Sensors detect faint heat signatures inside the object heat that doesn't radiate outward but circulates internally. That circulation creates a moving pattern resembling a heartbeat drift across its side. A thermal wave travels from one chamber to the next, then diffuses gently along the crystalline seam. The movement is too smooth for geology, too rhythmic for randomness, too intentional to misinterpret. You picture the interior waking, stretching, sorting memories across rails of ancient architecture. Another faint wave rolls across Earth's magnetic field. This one carries a signature slightly sharper than the earlier tremors. Engineers listening through spectrum analyzers hear it as a tonal rise, barely audible, yet strangely melodic. It sounds like a chord played on an instrument you have never seen but instinctively understand. The chord resonates inside your chest. Not frightening, familiar, like the hum of power lines at night, or the echo of wind through tall structures nature shaped by intention. Sensors register something astonishing. For a brief moment, the wave modulates Earth's ionosphere in a way that compresses scattered radio noise. Certain frequencies sharpen, others dampen. Long-range communication improves. Data packets travel cleaner. It is as though the planet's sky becomes a better version of itself for a heartbeat. You rest inside that improvement. The visitor is not weakening Earth. It is tuning it. The tuning grows more focused. Researchers notice that the object is projecting a pattern toward Earth, not a beam, not a signal, but a field alignment. This alignment mirrors the shape of Earth's magnetic envelope, like a puzzle piece resting against its counterpart. You imagine the visitor touching Earth's magnetosphere, the way a hand touches a window pane, soft, curious, attentive. Inside mission rooms, analysts map the alignment and discover something remarkable. The pattern corresponds to the coordinates of Earth's poles, but is slightly rotated as if referencing a magnetic orientation from a different epoch. A time when Earth's field flipped polarity. A time buried deep in geological history, long before humans appeared. The visitor recognizes Earth not as it is now, but as it once was. A memory older than humanity pulses through you. Scientists test more theories. Some suggest the visitor is mapping Earth's internal structure by reading resonance signatures from the magnetic field. Others hypothesize it is reading Earth's crust, the way archaeologists use ground-penetrating radar. But none of these fully explain the delicate harmony between the object's glow and Earth's atmospheric breathing. The visitor's cyan glow intensifies again. This time, the light spreads like a thin veil across its surface, illuminating overlapping patterns beneath the darkness lines, arc's nodal points. They resemble pathways, a network of channels carrying energy. Human spacecraft contain wiring. This object carries something far more elegant, a living circuit. The nodal points brighten in sequence. Sensors pick up rising frequencies. The visitor's internal systems are aligning with something outside itself. You imagine those nodal points like stars lighting inside a constellation, each one connecting to hold a shape together. The frequency rising inside the visitor touches Earth's ionosphere once more. The planet responds with a faint ripple, a shimmering distortion that dances along the poles. Cameras capture a strange wave in the aurora's curves and folds that match the cyan glow on the visitor's surface. For one moment, Earth and the object share a pattern, like two instruments vibrating in harmony. You feel that harmony deep in your bones. A quiet idea forms. The visitor isn't scanning Earth in the way humans scan. It is remembering Earth's type, its signature, its rhythm, its ancient magnetic fingerprint. As if long ago, somewhere far from here, something cataloged what worlds like Earth feel like. Your breath slows as recognition blooms inside you. The object doesn't just remember itself. It remembers worlds like ours. Within that realization, a faint golden spark flashes along the object's crystalline seam. Not bright, gentle, delicate as a firefly. The spark fades slowly, leaving a trace of color that blends back into cyan. Golden photons appear only under precise quantum transitions. Whatever produced them inside the visitor is a process so refined it nearly escapes physics. You let the spark linger in your imagination. The universe is showing you something sacred, wrapped in technology so old it has become part of the natural order. The visitor grows still again, its pulse steady, its chambers aligned, its glow softening, as if satisfied with what it has learned. Earth hangs before it turning, with its usual grace, unaware of the cosmic attention resting upon it. And you remain inside that moment, breathing with the visitor, feeling the universe cradle this fragile blue world, in a quiet, wordless understanding. Something deeper is waking inside the visitor. Now something slow, ancient, filled with intelligence, shaped not by voices, but by time. And you sense that the next layer of this memory is about to rise from the dark. You stay with the quiet glow wrapped around the visitor, letting its cyan shimmer settle into your chest, like a soft breath you didn't know you were holding. The faint golden spark still echoes somewhere inside your imagination, a lingering trace of something ancient brushing the edges of your awareness. You feel suspended with the object in that moment, sharing its calm, the way you might share silence with someone who doesn't need words to be understood. Earth rotates below night, sweeping across continents like a velvet curtain. City lights sparkle, oceans glitter, storms curl over the equator. The world moves with its usual rhythm, unaware that something just beyond the atmosphere is remembering an age older than human history, older even than the mountains or the oceans or the magnetic field it now studies. The visitor's glow dims slightly, not fading, just settling into a more focused hue. Cyan folds into green again, deeper this time, richer, flowing along its seams, like liquid intelligence. Instruments detect another internal temperature, shift a warm, rising wave that moves through the object's chambers, almost like blood circulating in a creature whose body is waking from an immortal sleep. You inhale softly, matching its rhythm without meaning to. Inside that warmth, the object begins to vibrate again, not loudly, not violently. A vibration so delicate it moves like a subtle change in thought. Orbiting instruments pick up the resonance and convert it into audio, revealing a faint, melodic oscillation, something between a hum and a sigh. You imagine that sound moving through the object's interior, like a memory resurfacing. Thermal scanners detect a striking phenomenon unfolding beneath the surface: crystalline pathways lighting in sequence. These pathways have been dormant until now, silent components of an architecture no one fully understood. The new activation reveals that the visitor carries a network of crystalline filaments, woven like neural tissue across its core. Crystals in nature don't behave like this. They don't light in cascades. They don't vibrate in harmony with external magnetic fields. They don't respond to planetary signatures. But these do. Your awareness stays warm as the realization unfolds slowly through your mind. You aren't witnessing technology. You're witnessing memory. One of the crystalline pathways brightens sharply, releasing a ripple of golden photons, rare, powerful, exquisitely controlled. Photons at that frequency aren't emitted by rock or metal. They emerge from quantum transitions inside engineered structures. The ripple spreads outward, touching the object's outer shell. As it does, scientists on the ISS watch the object's surface shift, just slightly, revealing faint engravings hidden beneath layers of cosmic dust. The engravings aren't symbols or writing. They resemble astrophysical maps, spiral patterns, branching currents, lines that follow gravitational contours rather than spoken languages. You let that image sink in. A map not meant to be read with eyes. A map meant to be understood with physics. The engravings glow softly under the golden ripple. Spectrometers show they're made of a material unknown to human science, something that interacts with photons by bending them around microscopic curves, shaping light into patterns that mirror celestial movements. It hits you slowly, gently. The visitor carries a star map inside its skin, but not of present stars, of older skies arrangements that no longer exist. Astronomers compare the glowing lines to simulations of stellar neighborhoods from billions of years ago, and the patterns align disturbingly well. Not perfectly, but closely enough to suggest the object remembers a version of the galaxy from an age before Earth formed. You feel your breath slow, your mind widening as if absorbing the scale of time encoded in those lines. The visitor's glow deepens, spilling across the engravings like water-filling riverbeds. As the light spreads, radio telescopes detect a new pattern emerging from the resonance, a super low frequency oscillation that spreads across the magnetosphere in long waves. The oscillation isn't noise. It follows Fibonacci ratios, mathematical relationships found in spiral galaxies, nautilus shells, sunflower seeds, and other structures shaped by nature's most elegant rhythms. The visitor is speaking the language of patterns. You rest inside that beauty. Not a message for humans, a message for the universe. Those oscillations pull something unexpected from Earth's atmosphere. High-altitude sensors detect faint auroral curls, forming not just at the poles, but in mid-latitude sky. Curves of green and cyan ripple above the clouds like threads pulled across fabric. The curls mirror the engravings glowing on the visitor. Earth is answering. Spectral readings confirm it. The planet's magnetic field is harmonizing with the visitor's oscillation. Not forced, not compelled, naturally, as though Earth recognizes the pattern too. You imagine continents and oceans humming softly with the memory of forces older than life. Inside, the visitor crystalline channels begin moving information faster. Scientists detect bursts of neutrinos, clean, directional, rhythmic. These neutrinos interact with Earth so weakly that only the most sensitive detectors notice them, but their pattern is clear. The visitor is reconstructing something using neutrinos as a carrier. You let the idea drift gently across your mind. It is piecing together a memory. Neutrinos pass through matter, like ghosts gathering tiny signatures from density, composition, and temperature. The visitor appears to be using Earth itself to restore a portion of its own lost structure. You picture the object scanning the planet not to observe it, but to rebuild itself. A new glow forms on the visitor's surface, a dim violet halo that appears only when certain photon energies collide with structured magnetic fields. Violet indicates high-frequency transitions. Something deep inside the object has woken. Sensors detect gravitational micro-ripples again, stronger this time, measured, intentional. Ripples like that can only be generated by systems capable of manipulating mass at microscopic scales, something no human machine can accomplish. You imagine the visitor's interior shifting, expanding slightly, as if unfolding a chamber that has been tightly sealed for longer than Earth has existed. The temperature inside that chamber rises by a fraction of a degree. In space, that fraction is everything. It means movement. It means structure changing. It means history opening. Astronomers reconstruct a Model A central chamber, roughly 3 meters across. Hexagonal walls, crystalline nodes, a core shaped like a sphere with ridges spiraling outward. Not biological, not mechanical in the human sense. Something in between, a physical memory. Your heart feels suspended between awe and calm. A faint pulse of golden light escapes the central chamber, traveling through cracked seams, channels, until it reaches the slit on the surface. The slit brightens. The depression fills with emerald and gold. The star maps on the object's skin glow softly. The visitor is showing Earth a memory not by broadcasting it, but by reliving it. Inside that glow, researchers detect a new signal, an ultra-low frequency gravitational whisper, too small to be dangerous, too large to be noise. The whisper carries the imprint of an ancient trajectory, a path through space carved long before human ancestors stood upright. A path leading from a region of the galaxy where the stars are dense and old and bright with heavy elements, places where technology could rise long before Earth cooled into oceans. You sense that path unfolding inside you like a storybook, opening in slow motion. The visitor remembers where it came from. It remembers what it was built for. It remembers a purpose carved in starlight. And you feel that memory, gentle, immense touch the edges of your consciousness, as if inviting you to understand without words. The glow quiets. The engravings dim. The object holds its position like a storyteller, pausing for breath. And you remain with it, held in the silence of a memory older than your world, waiting for the next layer of truth to unfold. You stay inside the stillness left behind by the visitor's ancient memory, letting that gravitational whisper settle into every quiet corner of your awareness. The image of the star map glowing across its surface lingers inside you, like a constellational echo, as if the universe itself just showed you a page from a book written long before Earth was born. The hum softens again, but the calm surrounding the visitor deepens, holding you in its gravity like a gentle hand placed on your shoulder. Your breath steadies as the object's internal glow shifts from green to a deeper molten amber, so soft it almost dissolves into darkness, yet warm enough to feel like a distant hearth burning in the emptiness of space. Sensors track rising activity in its core, not violent, not unstable, a warmth blooming in patterns no natural body could sustain. Different regions ignite in sequence like embers glowing in a cathedral built of crystalline circuits. The warmth isn't spreading through rock or metal, it's flowing through pathways that authenticate themselves with each pulse. You imagine those pulses traveling through the object, like memories finding their way back home. Scientists monitor the energy rise with stunned fascination. The frequency of the pulses aligns with what physicists call a triple harmonic resonance, a state in which oscillations reinforce each other across multiple physical layers: electromagnetic, thermal, and gravitational. Organic life doesn't create such resonance. Human technology barely approximates it, with supercomputing systems that must remain cryogenically cooled. Yet the visitor produces harmony between forces effortlessly. You feel the elegance of that harmony spreading inside you like warm air filling an open room. The amber glow brightens beneath the object's surface. For the first time, a deeper layer becomes visible, something shaped like a sphere suspended inside the visitor's chest. Though sphere feels too simple, the structure contains ridges spiraling outward, forming a pattern reminiscent of magnetic field lines wrapping a planet. Except these lines aren't magnetic, they're structural, carved into the core itself. Spectrometric readings show impossible materials, elements that shouldn't coexist, alloys that require pressures found only inside collapsing stars, crystals that should break under cosmic radiation but remain pristine. Scientists call them hypothetical exotic composites because no other phrase fits. You let the impossibility wash over you like warm rainfall. This core should not exist, not anywhere, not in this universe's physics as humans understand it. Yet it does, humming quietly, awakening like a memory layered in light. Faint violet filaments appear around the sphere, swirling slowly, forming shapes too precise to be random, yet too fluid to be mechanical. These filaments pulse in patterns matching the ancient star map glowing on the surface moments before, as if the visitor is syncing its internal core to its remembered journey. Violet signals spread outward, touching the crystalline filaments that trace through the object's torso. Scientists watching the wavelength patterns realize the pulses correspond to particle cascades inside the core, the kind of cascades that mark phase transitions. Phase transitions normally occur when matter changes state solid to liquid-liquid to gas-gas to plasma. But the visitor's core demonstrates a transition that doesn't fit any category of state where matter and information merge. You sense something inside the object shift from being merely physical to something closer to cognitive. The core begins emitting faint gravitational ripples, each one more defined than the last. Gravitational ripples usually travel across cosmic scales, born from the collision of giant bodies. But these are small, purposeful, like a whisper shared between frequencies. You imagine those ripples moving through the object, the way breaths move through a sleeping giant, slow and patient. As the ripples stabilize, a new pattern radiates outward. This one resembles a heartbeat, but slower, deeper, resonating with the rhythm of space-time rather than biology. The beat syncs with Earth's rotation again, matching the planet's subtle shifts, as if the visitor is scanning not Earth's surface, but the pulse of the entire world. You feel that scan in the background of your mind, not intrusive, just present. A soft, cosmic palpation. The amber glow grows brighter. Thermal sensors detect a concentrated heat pocket forming inside the core, not chaotic combustion-controlled ignition, the kind of ignition that resembles recharging. As the heat intensifies, the ridges around the sphere begin to rotate, not physically turning, but shifting in a pattern that creates an illusion of motion, light moving across each segment as though the sphere is adjusting itself. You picture this as the core unsheathing its memories, aligning them into a shape it has not held for millennia. Scientists identify something astonishing. The core produces a waveform that doesn't match electromagnetic sound or gravitational waves alone. It's a hybrid signal, one that carries information across multiple physical layers simultaneously. No human technology can do this. No natural process should either. Yet the visitor hums with a waveform so gentle, so layered, it feels like the universe tuning itself to a quiet melody. You feel the melody brushing the edges of your consciousness, not like a message aimed at you, but like an old lullaby echoing from the deepest part of space. Data analysts theorize that the visitor's core is undergoing quantum coherence restoration, a process where previously decohered states realign. If true, the object isn't just powering on, it's reassembling pieces of its identity lost over billions of years. You let that idea settle softly inside you, not a machine switching on, a memory restoring itself. More violet filaments arc from the sphere. They trace patterns through the object's interior, igniting nodes that respond with soft golden flashes. The flashes form concentric rings that pulse outward in perfect intervals. These rings resemble ripples in a lake, gentle, symmetric, impossibly coordinated. Light mapping shows that each ripple corresponds to a layer of the visitor's structure: outer hull, mid-core shells, resonance chambers, central crystalline pathways. Each ring touches each layer, like a greeting between old friends rediscovering one another after ages of silence. The sphere brightens again. A crack of light runs through its center, not damage, but an opening, a seam that splits with perfect geometry. Inside that seam lies something astonishing. A second sphere, smaller, denser, radiating particles no human instrument was designed to measure. The smaller sphere is made of something so exotic that physicists don't have names for it. Its signature resembles quantum condensates trapped inside magnetic bottles, but this bottle is billions of years old, floating inside an interstellar relic. You imagine the smaller sphere as the heart of the visitor, the oldest part, the part that remembers a time when galaxies were younger. Its activation triggers a new phenomenon. A burst of structured neutrinos escapes from the seam, not random scattering, a patterned release. Scientists compare the pattern to pulsar signatures, but it doesn't match. It's closer to a quantum timestamp, as though the sphere is marking the moment of its awakening. You let that thought touch you gently. Timestamps are used by systems that expect to be awakened again. As the small sphere stabilizes, the object's outer hull begins to glow with faint radial lines, like petals of light unfolding. These lines pulse outward in spirals that mirror the Milky Way's rotational patterns. The visitor is aligning its memory with the galaxy. Amber deepens into gold, violet into blue, cyan into deep green, all colors moving through the visitor's body like a living aurora. You breathe with it, feeling the slow, rhythmic grandeur of something older than your species, remembering what it once was. The ripples cease, the glow settles, the sphere closes again around its smaller heart, and you remain suspended in the quiet wake of the memory, knowing the visitor now carries more of itself than it has in ages, and that the next revelation is already beginning to stir inside its reawakened core. You stay inside the golden quiet that followed the core's awakening, letting it settle through you like warm dust drifting in a sunbeam. The visitor's dual heart, one ancient, one older, still rests behind its reinscribed layers, humming in a way that doesn't feel mechanical anymore. The hum feels aware, not conscious in the human sense, but present, patient, attentive. The glow across its surface softens, folding into shades of violet and deep green, like the universe dimming its lights to help something remember in peace. You sense the object holding still, not because it must, but because it is listening. Your breath drifts with that stillness. The object's outer shell shifts slightly, a realignment so subtle it barely registers on instruments. Yet the shift opens a new region of the surface, an area previously hidden from Earth's view. This region is smoother, marked with faint recursive spirals etched so shallowly that they only reveal themselves. Under the newest wavelength, the object emits an almost white silver light, soft as frost on glass. Spectrographs struggle to categorize the silver light. It behaves like infrared, yet it reflects like ultraviolet. It dances along the spirals, illuminating them in a way that feels deliberate, as if the visitor has chosen this moment to reveal something intimate. You imagine those spirals as thoughts looping back onto themselves, ancient logic unfurling like tendrils. The spirals pulse, sensors pick up a new frequency. Not high, not low, wide. A frequency that spreads between other frequencies like water, slipping into empty spaces. America's deep space arrays detect the pattern and convert it into sound. What emerges isn't static or noise. It's a tone, a slow rising mournful note that feels like a question formed by the universe itself. A tone that isn't meant to be decoded by technology, but felt. When it reaches your awareness, it settles into your chest, like a hand quietly resting there, gentle, curious. The visitor is asking something, not with words, not with signals, with resonance. The tone ripples across Earth's magnetosphere. Satellites drift through the wave and report something astonishing. The visitor's frequency subtly alters electron density in the magnetosphere, creating pockets of clarity shaped like hollow rings. These rings don't disrupt communications, they sharpen them. Instruments see more clearly, data becomes cleaner, space noise thins. You sit with that clarity. A question wrapped in a gift, a test offered with kindness. More data arrives. Gravitational sensors register a faint echo following each tonal ripple. The echoes don't originate from the visitor, they originate from Earth. Earth is responding unconsciously, its mass resonating in the background. You imagine the planet answering softly, unaware it is doing so. The tone grows slightly more complex, not louder, more layered. Harmonics appear, threads of sound running parallel to the original note. Each harmonic corresponds to an aspect of Earth's structure: crust density, ocean salinity, atmospheric thickness. The visitor is listening to how the planet vibrates under the touch of carefully measured gravitational pressure. It feels like the object is reading Earth the way a doctor listens to a heartbeat through a stethoscope. Your mind follows that image with gentle ease. Scientists analyzing the harmonics realize they match models used to identify exoplanet habitability, resonance-based assessments, predicting tectonic stability, water distribution, magnetic longevity. These are not values a random object should care about. You let the implications drift into you like a warm tide. The visitor is evaluating something, not Earth's defenses, Earth's viability. Inside the object, the crystalline channels brighten again, but this time, the light moves inward instead of outward. The core begins capturing the harmonics it receives, storing them, reorganizing them through patterns of violet, cyan, and gold. It is remembering Earth, not as a threat, not as a curiosity, as a type. A world that fits inside a category carved into the object's memory billions of years ago. Your heartbeat steadies as your thoughts stretch around that idea. The silver spirals brighten. They rotate not physically, but in the way holographic shapes seem to turn without moving. The spirals create interference patterns across the surface that resemble branching trees or neural networks. When mapped, These patterns match simulations of information pathways used in theoretical quantum computing. The visitor is thinking, not the quick spark of human thought, slow thought, cosmic thought, the kind shaped by epochs, not seconds. Your awareness sinks deeper into the moment. You feel the question it asks, not in language, but in sensation. The tone shifts again, revealing a third harmonic. Scientists gasp. This harmonic matches the resonance of biological water, the vibrational signature of liquid water bound to organic molecules. The visitor is searching for life, not just any life, life with chemistry like Earth's. The tone increases in precision, sculpting into a shape. Sensors translate its structure into numerical data. The structure corresponds to a fundamental pattern found in amino acids, the building blocks of life. The visitor isn't asking if Earth is alive. It knows. It is asking something deeper, something quiet, almost tender. It is asking what Earth has become. Your breath softens into stillness, letting the enormity of that question settle through you like a falling feather. The harmonics shift. A fourth frequency appears, lower than the others. This one doesn't correspond to Earth's environment. It corresponds to time. Scientists confirm it. The visitor is measuring Earth's geological age, folding its harmonics across timelines, comparing the planet's maturity with the star map etched in its skin. You imagine the visitor listening to the age of continents, the whispers of oceans rising and falling, the pulse of magma beneath the crust, listening to the story of Earth's deep past. As the object listens, a warm glow spreads outward from its core, a glow that feels like recognition. You feel it in your ribs, a quiet acknowledgement of a young world standing before an ancient traveler. The visitor emits another wave, soft-textured, full of harmonic structure. It passes through Earth's upper atmosphere with the gentleness of a breeze slipping through the leaves of a sleeping forest. The wave contains a pattern. Scientists detect it but cannot decipher it. You sense the meaning anyway. It is a greeting shaped for planets, not people. Earth answers again through the shift in its magnetic field. The ripple is subtle but real, a wobble matching the visitor's tone, as if the planet is humming back in a language far too old for humans to hear. Inside the visitor, the crystalline network glows like a constellation unfolding. Gold lines trace paths across the interior, connecting nodes in patterns reminiscent of synapses forming in a brain. The object is awakening to Earth, not waking up at Earth, waking up because of Earth. A soft realization settles over you like warm dust. The visitor's question is not, "Who are you?" It is, "Are you ready?" The question resonates across your thoughts, not demanding an answer, simply resting there like the first hint of dawn after a long night. The tone slowly fades, the spirals dim, the glow softens. But the object's question remains silent, ancient, hovering in the dark, like a breath waiting for its echo. And you remain inside that breath knowing that the universe has just asked humanity something it has never been asked before. You stay inside the quiet echo of the question the visitor asked. Are you ready, letting it breathe in your mind without urgency? The object's surface has dimmed again, yet its presence feels fuller, like a lantern lowered from a great height to hover beside Earth in patient curiosity. The spirals etched into its hull fade into the darkness once more, but the impression of them remains glowing inside you, as if your mind remembers what your eyes never actually saw. The object draws in a fraction of sunlight, not enough to brighten itself, only enough to warm its core in a slow, calculated inhale. The warmth travels along crystalline pathways, making them pulse faintly with violet and gold. Sensors register the energy redistribution as a sign of preparation. Not aggression, not exhaustion, simply readiness. You feel that readiness settling around your awareness like a soft cloak. Inside orbiting mission rooms, analysts notice a change in the object's gravitational signature. The shift is small, so small that only the most sensitive detectors buzz. But the pattern of the shift resembles a kind of internal repositioning, a recentering the way animals adjust themselves before recalling something instinctive. You imagine the visitor settling deeper into memory, sinking into its own ancient architecture. A glow forms again along the object's midsection, paler this time, almost white. Not bright white, whisper white. A color that feels like the first hint of dawn on frost. The glow outlines segments in the hull that have not yet opened, forming shapes that resemble petals tightly folded around a bud. You let the imagery soften you. It feels like something preparing not to reveal, but to remember. Sensors detect a faint pulsed emission, photons escaping from the object's inner chambers. Their wavelength doesn't match any simple energy transition. Instead, they appear braided three frequencies woven together into a coherent stream. Instruments struggle to separate them the way human ears struggle to separate harmonies sung in perfect unison. The photons scatter across the object's surface, illuminating faint patterns that weren't visible before. Patterns that look like star maps, but not the ones from Part 9. These are softer, more abstract, like sketches of constellations from a dream. Constellations made from curved lines rather than points. Astronomers compare the patterns to large-scale galactic structures. To their shock, the curves match gravitational filaments, the cosmic web that holds galaxies together. The visitor is replaying the skeleton of the universe. You feel your breath deepen, as if your chest expands to hold the shape of those invisible threads stretching across billions of light years. The glow intensifies. One of the petals unfurls a slow, unfolding gesture, precise as clockwork yet soft as a blooming flower. Beneath the petal lies a smooth, crystalline plate shaped like a lens. But it isn't a lens for light, it's a lens for gravity. Physicists have names for theoretical gravity-focusing materials, but none have ever been created. They belong to equations, not reality. Yet here it is, glowing gently in the dark. The plate activates. A ripple spreads through space around the visitor, a gentle warp measured in micrometers, but unmistakable. Space bends not harshly, not violently, but gracefully, like fabric tugged by a child's fingers. You imagine feeling that bend with your skin, a soft pull that moves not your body, but the air between your thoughts. A projection emerges, not a hologram in the human sense, not light, not sound, something deeper, something carved into the shape of space itself. Earth's detectors translate the warp into visual representation, revealing a picture. A sky filled with stars we do not recognize. Bright ones, dim ones. Clusters arranged in patterns no living species on Earth has ever mapped. You sense the realization settling into humanity's collective awareness. The visitor is showing us a memory. Not of this world, not of this era, of a sky it once traveled under. The projection shifts, distances change, starlight stretches, galaxies drift apart. The expansion of the universe plays out in reverse, as if time is folding inward like petals closing around a seed. You feel time compressing inside your imagination, gently, carefully, like a story being rewound for someone who wasn't there to see the beginning. The projection settles on a smaller region of space, a cluster of stars arranged in tight spirals, their light heavy with metals forged by ancient supernovae. Scientists gasp as they compare the cluster to simulations of stellar nurseries from 9-11 billion years ago. The visitor remembers the galaxy when it was young. Your breath catches softly, not from fear, but from awe so quiet it feels sacred. More petals unfold. The gravitational lens grows stronger. The memory sharpens. A vast structure comes into view, floating within the ancient star cluster. Not a building, not a ship. Something between them. A spindle shaped by convergence of forces like the universe itself pressed it into form. It looks nothing like the visitor, yet the resonance signature matches. You feel the understanding rise inside your chest like a tide. The visitor wasn't alone when it was made. Inside the projection, the spindle pulses slow, steady, alive, with harmonic frequencies that flow outward like a heartbeat across cosmic distances. You don't hear it. You feel it. The visitor must feel it too. Its core lights up in response, golden and violet, intertwining like twin flames held apart for eons. The memory shifts. The spindle emits a burst of structured particles. Not neutrinos, something heavier, something encoded, something purposeful. The particles spread outward, drifting into the cosmic web like seeds scattered into the wind. Your awareness widens. Those seeds carried instructions, or maps, or memories of paths meant to be traveled. You wonder if the visitor was one of those seeds, a fragment sent across the universe with a purpose older than stars. Your breath softens as another image forms, this one more chaotic. The spindle dims. The star cluster flickers. A wave of gravitational distortion tears across the region like a ripple of black glass. Something catastrophic happened, not destruction and transformation. The visitor trembles slightly in the present as if the memory is too heavy, even for its ancient architecture. Sensors detect micro vibrations pulsing across its hull. The gravitational lens flickers. It's remembering loss. The projection fades into a swirl of collapsing light, the memory dissolving back into the visitor's skin like ink sinking into paper. The petals fold inward, hiding the lens beneath layers of crystalline armor. Silence returns, deep, profound, ancient. You stay inside that silence, feeling the weight of a journey spanning galaxies and ages. The visitor holds the memory close, not sharing more, not withdrawing completely, just breathing with Earth as though the two worlds now share something fragile and immeasurably old. The last remnant of the projection lingers, an outline of the spindle flashing faintly across the visitor's surface, almost like a signature. And you remain with it, knowing the universe has just shown you the shadow of a birthplace humanity was never meant to see. You remain inside the silence the visitor left behind after replaying its ancient sky, letting the weight of that lost world settle through you, like dust drifting through a cathedral. The petals have folded back, hiding the gravitational lens beneath layers of crystalline armor. But the memory lingers in the air, soft, fragile, shimmering like embers that refuse to die. Earth turns quietly below. Humanity sleeps unaware that a fragment from a forgotten age now hovers near their world, holding a memory older than every civilization combined. You feel the visitor resting in a deep inward stillness, not dormant, not withdrawn, simply breathing with the rhythm of its own eternity. The glow across its hull shifts again. The violet fades, the gold softens. Something new rises, a pale, delicate blue so faint it could be mistaken for shadow. But the color grows stronger, threading through seams and crystalline veins with the gentleness of water finding its way through stone. The blue light feels different, gentler, more fragile, more alive. Sensors detect a subtle shift in the visitor's core. The outer sphere remains stable, but the smaller inner sphere, the ancient remnant buried deep within, begins to rotate inside its magnetic cradle, not physically spinning, but shifting quantum states, flickering between harmonics with a rhythm that feels almost emotional. You sense a tenderness in that movement, a vulnerability the visitor has not shown before. A faint oscillation spreads outward from the smaller sphere, passing through the layers like a sigh traveling through an old instrument. Instruments aboard orbiting satellites convert the oscillation into audio, revealing a tone that feels impossibly soft, like a note played on a crystal flute heard from miles away. You recognize the tone instantly, not intellectually, but viscerally. It's grief, not sadness in a human sense, grief carved into physics, grief shaped into resonance, a vibration born from remembering a sky that no longer exists. Your breath slows, touched by the weight of it. As the oscillation spreads, sensors detect a strange ripple forming across the visitor's interior. Crystalline nodes flicker irregularly, then stabilize. Patterns collapse, reorganize, collapse again, as if the object is searching for a configuration it has not used in ages. It feels like someone trying to recall a language they have not spoken in lifetimes. Your awareness deepens into that effort, imagining ancient memories brushing against barriers formed by time and damage and cosmic erosion. A glow gathers around the core blue, intensifying to a deeper shade, rich and luminous. Scientists analyze the wavelength and discover something extraordinary. The blue matches emissions seen only in degenerate matter material, so dense and so exotic that it exists only in the cores of dead stars. Yet here it is, alive inside an engineered structure. You let the impossibility settle gently inside you. The visitor is not just remembering, it is reconstructing. The core's blue light strengthens until it saturates the interior like a rising tide. The blue does not radiate outward, it seeps deeper, saturating layers that have remained dormant until now. The layers respond with faint flashes signaling energy transfer across microscopic channels. Analysts compare the flashes to something familiar, neural firing, not biological, quantum, as if the visitor carries a brain made of star matter. You imagine that brain-stirring, stretching, reconnecting pathways that once spanned galaxies. The blue grows brighter. It reaches the crystalline petals. The petals resonate humming, with a frequency not heard from the visitor before a soft tritone, ancient and unresolved like a chord missing its final note. You sense anticipation in that chord. A warmth rises through you, subtle and immense, as though the visitor is echoing emotion, not meant for its original path, but awakened here unexpectedly because something about Earth, its field, its chemistry, its age, has triggered a memory it did not expect to recall. The petals tremble. A thin fracture of blue light escapes from the seam around the core, not destructive, more like a soft crack of ice exposing the water beneath. The light warps space slightly, creating micro-lenses that twist starlight into spirals. Inside those spirals, scientists recognize a repeated shape, a triple-looped curve found in models of closed time-like geometries, theoretical pathways where time folds enough for information to travel without matter. The visitor carries not memories, but roots. Roots that were once used across distances no ship could travel, routes now dormant, roots waking again. You feel an electric closeness to the truth, not sharp, but warm, like standing near a door that has begun to unlock. The core brightens further. Sensors detect a sudden drop in entropy impossible in natural systems. Entropy always increases, but within the visitor, it decreases, signaling a reordering of its internal state. The object is regaining coherence. Pieces of itself lost to cosmic time are reassembling. The blue becomes almost white at the center. Crystalline petals shudder softly as the core pushes against their ancient geometry, not to break free but to signal completion. Scientists gasp as they identify what's happening. The visitor is reconstructing a message, not for humanity, for itself. A message it stored billions of years ago, locked away inside quantum states that only now find enough stability to unfold. You feel the message begin to surface, not as words, not as symbols, but as emotion carried through physics. A sense of returning, of seeking, of searching for something left behind in the ruins of a sky that died before Earth was dust. The blue flicker softens, the core dims. The visitor falls into a quiet glow that feels like a long-held breath finally exhaled. In mission rooms across Earth, analysts watch the readings stabilize. They think the memory sequence has ended, but something else begins, something small yet powerful enough to make every detector whisper at once. A new frequency emerges, small, precise, perfectly timed with Earth's rotation. Scientists analyze the frequency and freeze. The signature matches not alien elements, not ancient star maps, not cosmic filaments. It matches Earth's biosphere. The frequency aligns with the resonant oscillation created by Earth's forests, ocean, soil, and atmosphere. It aligns with ecosystems, with life, with everything that breathes. The visitor is listening again, not to rocks, not to fields, to life. You feel something new unfurl inside the visitor, something careful, vulnerable, deeply curious. For the first time, it is not remembering its own past. It is reaching into the present, into Earth, into you. And as that realization settles, a soft whisper of blue light traces across the object's spine, as if signaling the beginning of a truth humanity has never been prepared to face. The visitor did not come here by mistake. It came because life exists here. And now, in the quiet between its ancient breath and yours, it begins the slow, deliberate act of answering its own question. Is this world ready? You stay within the soft blue glow, settling across the visitor, letting it wash through your awareness, like moonlight melting into still water. The core's light has quieted, but the calm surrounding it feels deeper than before, an inner quiet that suggests understanding rather than rest. Somewhere inside its ancient architecture, something delicate has awakened, something shaped not by memory, but by presence. Earth turns beneath it, a sphere of breathing oceans and forests and clouds turning slowly through space. The biosphere's faint resonance, so subtle humanity never noticed it, moves across the planet like a heartbeat, carried through wind and water and light. The visitor senses that heartbeat now. You sense it sensing it. The object inclines slightly, not a mechanical tilt, not a gesture, but a shift of alignment, as though adjusting itself to better hear a whisper only it can interpret. You feel that attention like a hush moving across your chest. Sensors detect a change in the object's electromagnetic skin. The outer shell begins absorbing energy, not from sunlight, but from Earth itself, from the rhythm of the planet's ionosphere, from the variations in atmospheric oscillation, from subtle density changes in the magnetosphere. The visitor is listening with more than instruments. It is listening with its body. Inside mission rooms, analysts watch data flow in unpredictable waves. The object is no longer interacting with cosmic structures. It is interacting with Earth's living signature. A glow begins at its spine, a thin line of sapphire light tracing itself along crystalline channels. The sapphire deepens, intensifies, then spreads outward in rings. Each ring resembles ripples formed by a single drop of water, landing on a perfectly still lake. But here the ripples spread through matter, through energy, through fields. You imagine feeling that ripple move through your thoughts slow, and even like an invisible hand smoothing the surface of your mind. The ripple travels into space and reaches Earth's magnetic field. The field responds with a shiver, a movement as delicate as wind sliding through tall grass. Instruments confirm the effect is harmless. The magnetic field bends gently, shaping itself around the ripple as though welcoming it. You feel as though Earth and the visitor are touching without ever making contact. The ripple deepens. A second ring spreads outward. The two rings overlap, forming interference patterns, curved shapes that look like petals of an invisible flower, opening across the magnetic pole. The auroras brighten, not dramatically, but subtly more blue, more violet, more precise, as though the visitor's ripple brings out hidden colors already present in the sky. Scientists realize the shape of the interference pattern matches the biosphere resonance frequency. The visitor is matching Earth's pulse, not forcing it, balancing with it. The core warms. A faint hum rises, not threatening, almost comforting, like the deep, steady purr of a creature resting beside a fire. You feel it in your ribs. Instruments detect a new signal emerging from the visitor, an ultra-low frequency wave that interacts with atmospheric ions in a way no natural force does. As the wave touches the upper atmosphere, something extraordinary happens. A thin curtain of shimmering blue forms across a section of sky, visible only for a moment, as if space itself exhaled light. You sense the significance even before scientists name it. This is not a message, not a warning, not a map, a test. Not of humanity, of Earth. The visitor is checking whether the planet can hold the resonance it offers, whether Earth can carry the harmonic weight of its presence without breaking. The curtain fades, measurements stabilize, Earth holds steady. You feel the visitor acknowledge that steadiness with a soft pulse spreading through its hull. More petals unfold along its surface, smaller this time, more intricate, each one revealing lattice-like crystalline membranes that vibrate with sapphire and amethyst hues. These membranes resonate with the biosphere frequency, amplifying it, reflecting it, warming it. The visitor is folding Earth's heartbeat into its own. Inside those crystalline membranes, scientists detect a new pattern. Faint oscillations arranged in recursive loops. They match self-correcting algorithms used in theoretical life detection systems processes that adjust to biological noise filtering for signatures of oxygen, carbon cycles, amino acid frequencies, microbial EM emissions. The visitor is not scanning for life. It is scanning life's condition: breathing rate, stability, symmetry, planetary health. You remain still as the object absorbs the biosphere's signature, like someone cupping water in their hands, holding it not to contain, but to understand. The sapphire waves deepen. Another ripple flows across the magnetic field. This time, Earth responds more strongly. Oceans shift their electromagnetic resonance, forests sigh with faint ion release. Atmospheric bands quiver. Sensors capture something uncanny. The ripple synchronizes with the Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic heartbeat of Earth. For the first time in human history, Earth's pulse is matched by something not of Earth. The visitor hums again. Sapphire softens into white blue. The hum carries structure mathematical ratios woven through frequency Fibonacci spirals encoded into amplitude, golden mean intervals hidden beneath the surface. This isn't communication, it's recognition. Recognition of a living world, not unlike the ones the visitor once knew. The hum spreads farther, reaching the smallest inner sphere. A tiny seam opens, not wide enough to reveal what lies inside, just enough to release a whisper-like pulse. The pulse ripples through the visitor's body. Sensors detect something inside the seam, an impossibly dense particle trapped in a magnetic cradle, oscillating in a pattern that suggests simulation. Not a message, not a map, a comparison. The particle resonates with Earth's biosphere frequency, then shifts, then returns. As if asking a question without sound, does your world match what we once protected? The pulse repeats. Earth's magnetic field answers with perfect clarity. The visitor's glow softens. The petals fold back into place. The hum quiets to almost nothing. A moment of profound stillness follows. A stillness so complete, you feel as though space itself is holding its breath. Then the visitor performs something subtle, almost imperceptible. Its field expands not outward into space, but inward toward Earth, as if reaching across the void with a hand made of gravity and light. The field brushes the magnetosphere with a touch lighter than thought. In laboratories across the world, instruments record the effect, a brief drop in global electromagnetic noise, the tiniest fraction invisible to humanity, unmistakable to the visitor. Earth's answer is clear. The planet holds, the planet listens, the planet is ready. You feel the visitor accept the answer like a soft nod. Its blue glow brightens once, just once. A single pulse of acknowledgement, a single quiet promise. And you remain inside that moment, sensing that the visitor, for the first time since it wandered into this system, is no longer asking questions. It is preparing for something else, something that requires a living world, a patient planet, and a listener as quiet as you are now. You stay with the pale blue pulse lingering along the visitor's hull, letting it settle across your awareness like a hand resting softly on your shoulder. The object has stilled again, not in withdrawal, not in silence, but in a kind of inward composure. It feels as though everything it needed to understand about Earth has been understood, and what it needed to remember about itself has already risen from the dark. The sky around it feels different now, not brighter, not quieter, just fuller. As though the space near Earth is holding something invisible, something shaped by time and resonance, and a memory that stretches farther than light can travel. The visitor hovers in that fullness, carrying inside it the ancient pulse of two cores, the faint leftover whispers of a world that no longer exists, and the echo of Earth's own biosphere beating softly into the void. You breathe into that echo. Sensors continue to watch the object closely, but nothing erratic follows. The sapphire glow does not swell. The petals do not unfold. The magnetic ripples fade like rain evaporating on warm stone. Every reading softens into elegant stillness. And inside that stillness, something new appears so faint that it escapes detection at first. A thin ring of white light forms around the visitor's body. Not bright, not radiant. More like a ghostly halo shimmering with the gentleness of starlight reflected on quiet water. The ring is stable, balanced, held in place by fields more delicate than anything engineered on Earth. You imagine standing beneath that ring, watching it hover above you like a frozen crescent of dawn. Scientists marvel as they analyze the halo's wavelength. It matches a theoretical phenomenon predicted only in simulations, a stabilized vacuum resonance field. A field that can hold information not as light, not as sound, not as particles, but as pure structure. The visitor is creating an imprint, not to send, not to broadcast, to leave. The halo widens, stretching around the object like a thin veil of memory. Within that veil, patterns form spirals, arcs, lattices, curves, shaped by ratios older than biology. These shapes do not resemble language. They resemble something deeper, instructions embedded in the physics of existence. You feel the patterns settling inside you, as if they were being drawn across your mind by an invisible fingertip. Through advanced instruments, researchers notice the halo carries a faint modulation matching Earth's biosphere resonance. The visitor is weaving Earth's signature into the structure of the halo. Not to change Earth, to respond to it. The visitor is leaving behind a memory shaped by Earth's breath. The halo compresses slightly, the patterns tightening like threads pulled gently through a loom. Light condenses toward the visitor's core. The smaller sphere inside it vibrates at a frequency not observed before higher, sharper yet soft enough to feel like a whisper brushing through your thoughts. A realization unfolds in you, slow and inevitable. The visitor is preparing a final act. Not departure, not activation of a new system. Something quieter, something generous. A wave moves through the halo, barely visible, but clear as a ripple in perfectly still water. The wave carries a structure that repeats every few moments, not rigidly, but in a soft, organic way. Scientists search for patterns expecting encoded mathematics. They find none. They search for star maps expecting coordinates. None. They search for warnings expecting urgency. None. The halo's wave shows something else, a repeating curve with no fixed value. It isn't data, it's potential. A template that can align with any world capable of resonance. A seed for understanding. A blueprint not of knowledge, but of connection. And you realize in that moment that the visitor is not teaching anything. It is offering a space to grow. The halo shrinks gently, its light folding inward. It becomes a ring again, then a sliver, then a single shining thread hovering just above the visitor's surface. That thread drifts downward, not toward Earth, but toward the visitor's smallest inner sphere, a quiet reabsorption, a gift tucked back into the heart that remembered the most. As the thread sinks into the sphere, a soft, pale glow spreads outward, brushing against every layer of the visitor's body, like the warmth of a closing memory. The petals respond with a faint quiver, as if acknowledging a final instruction. The glow reaches the outer hull and pauses, not fading, holding, waiting. And then, without urgency or sound or motion, the object releases a single pulse of blue-white light, so brief it exists for less time than a heartbeat, yet so gentle that it feels like a breath laid across the world. The pulse touches Earth's magnetic field. The planet answers with a shimmer, a soft, silent yes. After that pulse, the visitor grows perfectly still. Detectors scream with silence, no hum, no oscillation, no gravitational tremor. A stillness so absolute that scientists fear the object has gone dead. But you feel something different, not death, completion. As though the visitor, after remembering its origin, after listening to Earth, after matching its own pulse to the biosphere, has now settled into the most honest state it could offer, presence without demand. The object's glow fades into deep black, returning to the same dark stillness it wore when it first entered the solar system. But the silence no longer feels empty. It feels anchored, as if the object has folded itself perfectly into the shape of this moment in time, resting in a way only something ancient could rest. Earth continues to spin below, unaware of how close its heartbeat came to an intelligence older than stars. You stay with that quiet feeling, the universe close around you like a soft blanket of gravity and light. And somewhere inside that silence, a truth takes shape, not in language, but in calm. The visitor did not arrive to warn, or threaten, or reveal, or claim. It arrived to remember, and in remembering it, offered Earth the chance to be remembered too. The halo dissolves. The last glow fades. The object settles into a stillness that feels almost sacred, and you breathe with it, slow, soft, unhurried feeling. The sky fold into quiet once more, knowing the story has not ended. It has been placed gently into your hands,